On this slide, guys, you should have read the instructions, planned your essay and completed your essay using everything that's on that slide. So the purpose of this video is for me to go through with you possible answers you could have put in. Now bear in mind, if I don't, I'm just going to say probably about 3 or 4 possible answers on each of the agree and disagree sides, just to give you an idea of what you could have put. If you were struggling, this is the kind of things you need to put in that essay. If I say something then you think, oh, Miss hasn't said one of my answers, please don't think that it's wrong. It might have just been that I've not thought of it. If you want to check it and run it by me, if I've not said it, then fine, that's absolutely fine, because I know some of you did do that with the quotes from the previous lesson. But more often than not, just to give you guys a bit of praise with what you're doing, is that when you guys have emailed me saying, Miss, I've included this quote, but it wasn't said in the video, every single person who's emailed me, you've done absolutely brilliantly, and nobody's been wrong so far with what they've done. So if you want to, I'm here for you to email. That's absolutely fine, guys. But don't feel disheartened if I don't say your answer, because I'm just going through a few of them here. So for the agree side, what you're agreeing on is the question. It says practicing Vipassana meditation is the best way to achieve enlightenment. So here's some of the agree things, points you could have put in. So some people say that it is the best way to achieve enlightenment because it's the deeper understanding. It's understanding what the Buddha said, his teachings, and what he said is when the Buddha taught these things, he was trying to give guidance on how to achieve enlightenment. So by doing deeper meditation, you're focusing on the Buddha's words, you're focusing on his guidance, and that's clearly going to, some people would argue, get you close to enlightenment because you're focusing on his message, because he has achieved enlightenment, he's done it. So compared to Samatha meditation, where you just calm your mind, Vipassana meditation is where you focus on what the Buddha said and did, and that's going to give you a closer journey to enlightenment. Some people would argue. Another point is that it helps you to personally understand what you need to do, because if you're focusing, like I gave in the example previously, on breathing and how that works and how that links to the idea of nothing lasts forever, because eventually breathing will stop and so on, that helps you to focus on maybe things that you need to focus on in your life, because if that's something that's really bothering you, then you need to focus on the teachings of attachment and overcome that. Or if you're focused on through your meditation on something like the Eightfold Path and the Buddha's teachings on the right and wrong things to do, that's going to help you think, right, I'm really good at this part of the path, but I'm not very good at this part of the path. So it allows you to reflect, is what I'm trying to say here, is that it helps you to reflect on the teachings because you're going into a more deeper contemplation on what you need to do. Whereas in Samatha meditation, you're just simply breathing. A third point you could have put is it helps you to understand teachings, the Buddha's teachings, because you're going over and over them. Because you're thinking about these things, you're thinking about attachments, the Eightfold Path, the 3 marks of existence, all these different things in Buddhism. Because you're thinking about them, you're going to understand them more, because in your meditation you might revisit that teaching over and over again. And if you were to do that with this lesson, to do it over and over again, you will become an expert at this and you can confidently know about it, because you're going over it, you're putting that into your brain, you're ingraining it into your knowledge. So some people say that the Vipassana meditation helps you achieve enlightenment more because you are becoming an expert at the religion, and it's helping you to understand the journey more, compared to Samatha, where you're just breathing and calming your mind. A final one, if you're not sure on any of those ones, or if you've got something a little bit different, you could say it helps you understand the religion in more detail, which means you can help not only yourself, but you can help others, which will get you good calm, which means you can move on forward on your path to enlightenment, because it helps you to become more knowledgeable, which means you can help other people and you can become more active in the religion, and it can help you in your life more because you're understanding different aspects of the religion. So there are some of the answers you could have got. If you didn't hear any of the answers that you put down, please do not panic. If you're really struggling with this question, then jot some of those answers down. Have a go at doing the essay again if you were thinking that was really hard, and use this as your plan to do those sections. I'm going to move on to your disagrees now. The way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to give you 3 critiques of, 1 including why Samatha meditation is better, and 2 saying why different things you can do are better in achieving enlightenment, because there's different ways you could have gone about this. So I'm going to give you a really varied answers in order to help you with this. So My first disagree that I would put is that some people might argue Samatha meditation is better because Samatha meditation helps you to control your mind. If you can't control your mind, you cannot go into more detail about what the religion is, because you can't control your mind. You can't think about what's important. You can't make a rational decision of how you're going to put that into your life. So if you can't basically control your thoughts, control who you are, that's going to affect you in your journey to enlightenment. So that's one way you could argue it. Another one is you could say this is going completely different now, so I'm going away from meditation, is saying that other things are more important in achieving enlightenment. So you could say that doing things such as right action, right intention, right livelihood, following they're all parts of the Eightfold Path, is a better way to achieve enlightenment, because you are actively doing things to help yourself and to help others, and that'll get you good karma, and that's going to help you on your journey to enlightenment. And you're also practicing the things the Buddhas taught rather than just focusing on something in your head. You're actively doing something, you're living the Buddhist way of life. So some people say that that's a better way to achieve enlightenment. Another one, which is a very different one, is people could say that actually studying the Buddhist texts, studying the Dharma, which is the Buddha's teachings, is a better way to achieve enlightenment, because you're studying the actual words he said, because that's, in a way, the guidebook of how to achieve enlightenment is through the Buddha's teachings. So by studying that, studying the text, is a better way to achieve enlightenment. For the last part then, it says in the yellow box there, you've got to include your conclusion, which is your point of view. You basically, I can't mark that as right or wrong, as long as it's got to have something to do with the question, but that is your point of view on, do you think practicing Vipassana meditation is the best way to achieve enlightenment? So a good conclusion would be, I think yes or no, because, give an example, link it back to the question. You could even, if you had time, start talking about why somebody may disagree with you, but then you're saying, however, I still think this because. So that would be a really good solid conclusion. But bearing in mind, you've only realistically got between 12 and 15 minutes in your exam. So please make sure you've timed yourself. If you want to try this again with these answers that I've given you to help you speed up your exam technique, that would be absolutely brilliant. On the next slide, I'm going to show you what the examiner used. So when I do exam marking, what I use, and I'm going to talk you through it to help you figure out how many out of 12 you think you've got. It's like I've said before, guys, the same with your assessment that you've done previously from the peace and conflict topic. Keep your work, keep your assessments, and I will go over and mark these with you when we're back in school and when we can see your work. Because it's so much easier for me than to download it all, because my computer and the internet is absolutely awful. So save all your work, try and self-assess it, and I will go over it with you when I see you guys again. So let's move on to that bit. What I've done here for you guys is I've print screened the actual GCSE mark scheme for a 12-mark essay question, and I've annotated it and circled it and highlighted it in different colours so that you can understand why I give the marks that I do. Now this is, before we start this, even me as an examiner, it is quite difficult to mark a 12-mark essay question because it is very, very subjective, which means that it's me as an examiner might mark it very differently to another examiner because it depends on your interpretation of these things. So I'm going to explain this as best as I can for you to help you understand it. It's how you can mark your essay, and like I said, I will go over this with you in class when we're back to normal again. So at the very, very bottom, you can see where it says, I've circled a number where it says the 2 on the side there. This is what's called band 2. Now in band 2, this will get you between 4 and 6 marks. So I've highlighted in yellow, it says reason considerations of a point of view. If you've just put in a point of view and you've explained a point of view to the question, I've circled that as 1. So you've got 1 point of view. I would interpret that as maybe 1 simple paragraph, your conclusion, 1 agree, 1 disagree. If you've put 1 agree, 1 disagree and a conclusion, that's going to get you between 4 and 6 marks. Okay, so have a look at your work. If you've only done that, if you've only put 1 opinion in, I will give you a bottom end of a 4 in that mark. If you've done 1 agree, 1 disagree and a conclusion, they're quite well explained, you're looking at a 6 there. So it depends how well you've done it. But if you've only got those, like 1 of each in a conclusion, that will keep you in that band. So that's band 2. That's typically how it works. If you move up to band 3, which gets you between 7 and 9 marks, You can see there, first of all, before I start talking, I've highlighted in green, it says you must have clear reference to religion. It's easy to do that in this topic because you are talking about Buddhism, but in other topics like your peace and conflict topic, if you didn't mention any religious views or religious opinions, you can't get higher than 6 marks, but we don't need to worry about that in this topic because we're talking all about Buddhism. So it says there in yellow, for band 3 between 7 and 9 marks, you must have reasoned considerations of different points of view. I interpret that as, when it says different points of view, I would say 2. So 2 agree, 2 disagree, and your conclusion, okay? So if you've put, say for argument's sake, if you put 2 agree and only 1 disagree, that's still got different, it's still reasoned consideration, it's different points of view. So as long as you've got a conclusion as well, I'd be looking at 7 marks there. The more detail you go into, so if you've got 2 well explained agrees, 2 really well explained disagrees, and a conclusion, you're going to be looking at between 8 and 9 marks depending on how much you've written and how well you've developed your arguments, because like it says on slightly underneath in the unhighlighted bit, logical chains of reasoning that draw on knowledge and understanding. So if it's logical, if it's reasoned consideration, that's all your detail. That's why I keep going on at you in lesson about putting detail into your answers. So that's what you'd get, how you get between 7 and 9. To get your top band, which is your level 4, that's between 10 and 12 marks. I've highlighted there, it says a well argued response, so it's really well argued, reasoned considerations of different points of view. Underneath it says logical chains of reasoning leading to judgments supported by knowledge and understanding. So that basically means you've got your simple point of view, you've backed it up with evidence, you've really gone to town on your explanations. Now when I've said 3 there, that's why I keep saying 3 agree, 3 disagree, your conclusion, because for me that is really well argued. You've looked at loads of different things, you've considered all the different arguments, and then you've made your conclusion at the bottom. If you've done 3 and 3, 3 agree, 3 disagree, and you haven't got your conclusion, I'd stick you at either a 9 or a 10, depending on how well you developed your arguments are. Probably a 10 because obviously you've got 3 and 3. So it's all about how much detail you think. So look at your work and think, could I have put more detail in? If I don't know the answers, could it have still been more detailed? Because that's where you get it. So if you think I've got 3 of each but it's not well developed, 10. If it's 3 of each and it's awesome, tons of development, conclusion, it's absolutely amazing, 12. If it's in between, so it's not absolutely amazing, 12. It's not just about a 10 in the middle of 11. That's literally typically how we have to mark as examiners. We look at the quality of it and we have to make that judgment of where it's going to be. Okay, so hopefully that'll help you understand how to mark your work. Go through your work with a highlighter, highlight the simple points in each paragraph, highlight the simple point and then think, have I developed it enough underneath? And then look at your essay with all the highlighting done and think, where am I going to put that on this scale? Okay, and that'll help you understand what you're getting out of 12. Like I've said, when we're back in school, I'll go over your work and we'll pick up on all of this. We'll make sure every question that you have, every little thing you're worried about, we'll sort it out. So don't worry, just have a good go at it. And that's basically it for this task, guys, okay? So I'm going to just summarise it on the next slide for you guys. Okay, so this is the end of this lesson, which is Vipassana and Samatha meditation. Apparently my Alexa's listening in, you might have just heard it in the background, so at least I've got one listener to this video at least. So you should now understand what Vipassana and Samatha meditation are. You should be able to explain how this helps them on their journey to enlightenment and which you think out of those two is the most effective type of meditation. So aims of this lesson is to understand what they are, how they help Buddhists meditate. Okay, that's what hopefully you've got from that. On the next slide, there's one more slide after that, that's the answers to the quiz at the start of the lesson. I'll let you guys sort yourselves out with that. Well done for getting to this point. I hope this really helps. Thank you for all your lovely comments and your emails so far saying how these videos have helped you in your work. It's brilliant to know it's helped because that's all I want to do is help you guys as much as I can. So if you've got any other tips for me or anything you want me to do more in the videos, please let me know through email and I'll incorporate that into my lessons. But well done guys, you're doing brilliantly. Keep safe and keep working hard guys. I'll see you guys soon.